When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When is the next best time? Is now, right? And I would say the same about two things. One, invest in real estate and invest in yourself.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, it's Agostino. To have the rich life we want to have, we must first immerse ourselves into the right information and inspiration to ultimately transform our success in business and in life. Of course, the world of real estate entrepreneurship is no exception. Well, today's guest is the creator of the transformative 5-minute success concept with her books centered around real estate success, and they offer a combination of information and inspiration delivered all through memorable stories. Her materials are centered around lead generation, consolidative selling, success thinking, among many, many other things that we're going to be diving into. So she's also the host of the top-ranked 5-Minute Success podcast. Additionally, she is the principal of Huckaby Briscoe Conroy Group with Keller Williams. And since 1977, her group has sold over 1,500 homes valued at over $1.5 billion. Now, with all that, I'd like to welcome Karen Briscoe to the show. Hey, Karen, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Agostino, I am delighted to be on Bulletproof Cashflow because who doesn't want more of that?
Right, I know. That's what I've been telling people.
We're all living the dream.
That's right. Well, if you guys like what Karen has to say, you can reach her via our website at 5minutesuccess.com. If you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. And finally, if you text the word freedom to 202-410-4202, you get our free ebook, The Bulletproof Guide to Raising Capital. Okay, Karen, let's get into your backstory. How did you get started with the world of real estate and, of course, what you're doing today?
Well, I actually started out in commercial real estate in the development side. So worked for Trammell Crow in Dallas, Texas, out of college, where we would buy land, put in streets, utilities, and sell lots to home builders. I met my husband in Dallas. We married, had our 2 children, and his career moved us to the D.C. inside the Beltway metro region, where I'm in Northern Virginia, McLean, Virginia, which you would recognize if you watched any movie that centered around the CIA in Langley, and where Amazon HQ2 is. And I was the predominant caregiver for our 2 kids for about a dozen years because my husband's career required a great deal of travel. And I feel blessed and honored that I was able to do that. But when I wanted to re-enter the workforce, I wanted to go back into the commercial side. And went to work for the Staubach Company, another Texas firm, had the Nextel account, sales, engineering, and warehouse offices. Well, if you've done one sales and engineering warehouse office, you've done them all. And it was during the tech bust. So when things are busting, when markets are busting in disposition mode, there isn't any money. And Staubach lost the account. And that meant me going to work for Nextel, which, again, disposition mode and sales and engineering warehouse offices are boring. I was like, okay, what else can I do with a real estate license? And so I moved over to the residential side at a recommendation of a friend. And I just have to confess here, people on the commercial side, they think they do all the hard skills, right? The negotiations, market knowledge, strategy, and, we often look at the soft side skills of the relationship building, the personal side of owning and purchasing, selling residential real estate. But what I found is that I have both sides and met with success very quickly. Actually, people really respected that I had these hard skills, but I love people and I love helping them. And so I met with success quickly. And when people meet with success quickly, people notice, right? And so one of the top agents in the nation, number 10 at the time, Sue Huckaby, asked me to join her team and become our partner. And that was the trajectory up until 2008, when sadly she passed away. The same month, the financial markets crashed. Well, all of us that were real estate in 2008, fortunately, I had the muscle memory from the savings and loan crisis of the 80s and made a lot of changes rapidly, was able to survive, then go about building. In rebuilding, I realized I really wanted to be in partnership. I didn't want to do it alone. I didn't want to have the solopreneur lifestyle. And so one of my past clients, who I also knew from church, she joined me. And that's the Conroy. So you said HBC, so Huckaby Briscoe Conroy, that gets you the three people. So Lizzie and I have been business partners since 2009. So we've been rebuilding since that time. Well, as often happens when people are meeting with success in challenging times, going from surviving to thriving, people want to know how you do that. And so in 2019, our team sold 91 million, and that's at a dollar average of about $1 million because we're in a pretty high income area. So 91 homes. And
Wow.
that led us into the top, 100 teams in the nation. And so along that way, people asked how I did it. So that led to speaking, coaching, and training, and a lot of podcasts, which led to the books and the 5-Minute Success podcasts, which I refer to as my creative endeavors.
Right.
Because I'm still a producer. I still actively help people buy and sell real estate.
All right, so let's take a step back then. So when you're trying to get out of that nosedive in 2008, right? Some of these success strategies you applied there were from the previous crash, which it seems that everyone keeps talking about '08 as the big one, and it was big, of course. What sort of things did you pull out from the savings and loan debacle back into 2008 that really gave you the advantage that really helped you thrive during that time?
I feel like I had a first mover advantage in the sense that I recognized the signs a lot faster than most people did. I actually saw it coming starting in '06 when we started seeing a buildup of inventory related to demand. So supply and demand is like gravity. And when you have more supply than you have demand, then there's going to be corrections. Now it's just, when, and it could be different submarkets. It doesn't have to be the whole market correcting. But we did see a continuous increase in supply. And that was starting actually in about the summer of 2006. In fact, now you could go back and look at the statistics and it proves it out. We were losing our market area like 30% of the buyers one year, another 20% the next year. And so the crash was quote unquote inevitable because when the supply and demand gets out of line, then you have to, the market's going to make a correction. So, and there were a lot of reasons for it, which many people are very aware of. One is, what was going on in the financial side of it, the lending side of it, but also that housing prices were just getting out of line with what the people could afford and what made sense, right? It just didn't make sense. So what did I do? Well, first of all, I tried to sound the alarm. I did sound the alarm. And the people who listened to me were successful. And so, yay, there were people that listened to me. And that led to a lot of credibility. I became an authority in our market area by writing a quarterly market update, which again, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're consistently sharing and contributing value, then often that comes about. The other thing was making significant changes to expenses. And really, as Gary Keller says in the Red Book, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the red light, green light, right? So every expense had to be accountable. And one of the expenses that our team had been built on was really heavy marketing. And so we went from marketing based to more activity based lead generation. And I had always been activity based, but we went predominantly activity based. And so those were several major adjustments that we made that enabled us to first survive it and then figure out how to grow from there.
Right. Well, the Red Book you're referring to is the one thing, right?
Well, the one thing is the Red Book is a Millionaire Real Estate Agent,
Yes,
which was built out of conversations with all companies, many companies, not just one company, but top agents from all over the United States, what they experienced. And it has great core advice. The one thing is the principle that what's the one thing you can do such by doing that, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. And that's a very valuable principle as well.
Right. So when you mention activity-based, it sounds like sales. So if you're doing like lead gen, that kind of thing, it sounds like almost like you're trying to build the top of the funnel then, right?
Yes, well, I had always been lead gen. That was how I built my business from the very beginning. Was I recognized that people needed to know that that's what I did for a living, and that I had to reach out to them. And then more than that, that it was my opportunity and my obligation to do that, because I felt that coming from a service, so I looked at it as serving and offering guidance, professional guidance, rather than selling. And that's one reason why in the book, the first aspect to it is commit to get leads, because until you have a lead, you don't have anything to do. I mean, that's true with any industry, right? I mean, in the commercial side, until you have, leads can be both investor leads where the money flow comes from, but it can also be deal leads, right? So everybody's lead generating. I mean, your dentist lead generates if they don't have patients, they don't have anything to do. And
Right.
churches lead generate, they have parishioners, right? So everybody lead generates. But then to go from the next component of the 5-minute success, which you talked about sales, is I call consult to sell, because it is conversion, but the difference between converting and consulting is somebody has a real estate need and you're helping them work through that need in a professional consultative manner. And so I find that it really isn't necessary to sell if you help people, enough people, right, through the process. I found that if you want to talk about selling, I would say selling in terms of learning the strategies of helping people make decisions, strategies of negotiation, strategies of, market knowledge, those kind of things. I consider those strong sales strategy, techniques and skills, and we can all improve those knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's more like you're getting in a position of trying to help someone make a decision as opposed to selling them on something, right? You're providing them with the knowledge that they need, and then hopefully they know you, they like you, and they trust you, and then it becomes a very different conversation at that point, right?
Yes, and I find that, as you just said, that has a lot more impact and influence than, because what I found is it really is hard to make people buy and sell houses. They really have to want to do it. It's a lot of, particularly in challenging markets. Okay, so when it's easy, anybody can do it. But when you think about challenging markets, like again the 0809, when sellers are often coming to the table with money or losing money or potentially losing their house, and buyers were equally just as concerned, because the reason why buyers were challenged then was they didn't know whether we'd reached the bottom, right? And whether they were overpaying. And so everybody was under a lot of stress. And of course, now we have the current environment going on. So even without external stresses, like what's going on in the current market, people already have internal stresses going on when they're buying and selling residential real estate. And that really is true as well with commercial. I mean, my son is in commercial real estate. He does shopping centers, and there's a lot going on right now in that space. If you think about it, I mean, the small businesses that are impacted first by COVID-19 and a lot of the stay at home and, closing down businesses that was required. And then, the unrest that's going on. And so I would say this is really true with anybody who deals with people. These are people, because people that, it is personal, because it's their life or their livelihood, right? Or it's where they live. So those things are all going to require, in my view, a consultative approach. There's a research study by Harvard that they found, if you want to talk about top salespeople. So what were the characteristics of top salespeople? They had two major characteristics. One was drive. They had this internal fire in the belly that they were going to get up and make something happen. And then they also had a high level of empathy. They could really connect and relate to people in their situation. And if you think about it, if you have too much drive, you're going to bulldoze people. Too much empathy, you're going to be you're not going to help them make the hard decisions, right? I mean, it's easy to make easy decisions. It's hard to make hard decisions. So that combination of drive and empathy is something that I have found to be where most success lies.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So in your material, in the 5-minute success plan, what other things do you cover besides some of the lead gen and some of the other
The
stories that
consultant.
you create there? Yes.
Yeah, so there's four, pillars, fundamentals. The first is commit to get leads, because until you have a lead, you don't have anything to do. The next is consult to sell, because you need to take that lead through the process so business comes out on the other end, right? Or it's at some point you could just keep lead and it'll just go out the back door, right? And then there's this, what happens with many salespeople, entrepreneurs, they get on a hamster wheel. They're always good at their next deal. They wake up and they do it over and over again every day, and that actually becomes very exhausting. And you will wake up someday and you won't have any business because you don't have the flow. So connect to build and grow creates the systems, the scale, the leverage to create an ongoing enterprise, so that there is business flowing even on the times where there may be market corrections or, shutdowns or things, that you can still conduct business. And then success, thinking, activities, and vision, because mindset and motivation is key to success in any industry. And the idea is, many people, they have a vision, they have the vision boards, they know that bulletproof cash flow is their ultimate objective, right? They have their affirmations, they're thinking about it, but then you have to take the actions. Because if you don't ultimately do anything, you've created a vision and you've thought about it, and you're not, it's not magic, if you will.
Well, Karen, that's the hard part.
Really?
That's the hard part, right?
Yeah. All these programs, they tell you how to create the vision board, they tell you how to do the affirmations. They forget to tell you that you have to lead generate, you have to convert, and you have to build a business. But the thing is when it's all done in sync, then you get to the sweet spot of success. I mean, that's where, it's all, flowing.
That's right. Now, do you see any parallels between 2008 and today? And then how do you apply your concepts to what's going on? Like, how do you do that?
Well, for the residential side, having a job is important, right? I mean, people, they need secure, steady employment in order to buy and to rent. And, so that is going to impact the market. Now, the Fed and the government has brought in programs, and ideally they will be the stopgap measure to help those people through, so that we can then go about rebuilding. So that is one thing. That's a couple of things that are different. There was a lot of unemployment in the 08-09. People were using their homes as cash registers. People were getting loans for properties that they really couldn't qualify for in standard, credit, collateral, and character. So most people have equity. So the one difference between this market and that market is, in the 08-09, people didn't have equity, so they were short selling. And then, of course, foreclosures came after short sales if that didn't work. So we don't anticipate that as of right now, because we anticipate that if people have a need to sell, they would be in a position to sell and have some equity that they could pull out, so that there won't be the desperation. The other thing that's significant so far is that we have low supply. So Mira already talked about supply and demand, and supply and demand is like gravity. In most markets, in most segments, there's low supply. And that's because, well, for our market area, the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro region, first quarter 2020 was like the best quarter ever. And so we were already coming into a market where we were already low supply. And then because of COVID-19, we had many people that were not putting their houses on the market. So we continued to have low supply, and yet we had a demand for housing. And one thing about housing that is unique to this, it's more like 9/11, is that people care more about their house, right? Mm-hmm. Safe at home, sanctuary, shelter in place. People are discovering the things they love about their house and the things that are working about their house. And because those they're going to be more important to them. They're going to be wanting to have space for all the things, working at home, homeschooling, all the storage needs, outside exercise, outside space. So we're thinking that there's going to be more demand for housing. We do see probably a push or a move away from urbanization to the suburbs. Again, back to physical distancing. We saw that 9/11 as well. So we're going to likely see more of that. And we're probably going to see more generational housing because I think that we have millennials who were about ready to get launched and then got unlaunched. And then the baby boomers are probably going to be delaying making their next right size move. So those are some things that we're anticipate seeing. We're seeing arbitrage going on because buyers' interest rate affordability is incredible. So they're able to sell well in the lower brackets, buy up in the higher brackets, have a similar. And we're seeing people recognizing that the stock market, maybe they want to diversify in other assets. We're seeing people wanting to invest in real estate more so. So those are some of the trends. Many people think that summer is going to be more like spring. And we're hopeful that that means that more people, as they get confident, the states open up, that there will be more sellers putting their houses on the market, and we'll start seeing some more movement.
Or we're just going to erase the whole last few months and
it just feels like a winter. I was like, okay, well, it was winter time here in the spring. So I do anticipate, at least in the Washington, D.C. metro region, we could likely have happened what happened after 9/11, and that was the buildup of Homeland Security. We could have a buildup of some sort of healthcare infrastructure. I know we have NIH already, but we may need something more in the prevention of these type of contagious diseases that where people had sounded the alarms before. I mean, but that now, just kind of like 9/11, now we're like, okay, now we're all going to do it. And then same with travel. We'll probably see some sort of buildup of how we're going to be health secure in travel. That's likely to create some sort of infrastructure as well. Those things all create jobs. So the jobs are shifting and changing, which oftentimes that's, unsettling for markets when that happens. And so I don't see it being a crash. I see a pause. But I don't see prices as a rule going down, because unless supply exceeds demand for a long time, but we have such undersupply in most markets that I don't think that's going to take place soon.
Right. Well, I mean, not to mention too, many of these big corporations are going to start pushing back on their employees to work from home. So if anything,
Yes.
the home has become that sanctuary that you mentioned. People they may want to move. They don't have the space for a nice little office type area or whatever. They may need to get a bigger spot. Maybe they can move out of, say if they are in California, move out of California, since they can be now anywhere.
Anywhere. Yes. That's going to see, again, moving away from urban areas. We're already seeing it in New York City and California. So that'll probably be a trend we're going to see more of, because the one thing that came out of this is everybody figured out how to, work remotely. And many companies are going to embrace that because they're saving so much on office space. Although I do think there is still a place for it, because I mentioned our office went home and sheltered at home per the governor's recommendations. But we all missed each other. I mean, Zoom only does so much, right? And so we decided we're going to keep our office space for just the collaborative nature of it. So I don't think it's going to go away. I think people are very social, and I think that's going to, amenities and all of that are going to be important in the long run. We just have to get people back to feeling safe and secure.
100%. I don't think the office is going to go away. It's going to change, but it's not going to go away. It just won't. So now, given that all the shifting is occurring, then what sort of What sort of methods do you apply then to keep building those leads? And I know obviously you have your method. Like, how do you apply that? I guess drive more business. How do you do it?
The conversation has changed and shifted some. It really is still the same message, that of being of service, because I find that when you come from that, then people recognize that you're there to help them with their situation, and being very community based. Very much, our campaign for 2020 is: we live here, we work here, we get back here. Your agents for life. So that campaign has really actually been even more instrumental in finding ways to contribute to the community. And when you're a resource like that, then people are receptive to hearing from you. I have found that, again, back to, I'm not really selling anything, because if they don't want to move or don't need to move, I mean, I can't make them move, trust me, but I can help them with discovering if this is a time, or if they know somebody that is ready to make a move. And it really is amazing, because more people also want to have the conversation of just what's going on in real estate. We began a bomb video campaign. We had so many people like going, what's going on? They thought we had shut down. Now, our market area was considered by Homeland Security essential. So we, as real estate agents and professionals, were still conducting all points of the transaction, all the way from listing homes and marketing. We did scale back the traditional open house to virtual, but everything else we've been doing, and we're back to traditional open houses now. So now that we're out of the original stay-at-home orders. So some areas were more impacted by that than others, but at the same time, as far as I can tell, in all jurisdictions, real estate was taking place, because it's a basic human need, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, all the way from apartments, my son and his fiance moved apartments in the midst of COVID. And some people are like, oh, you're letting them do that? I'm like, what do you mean letting them do that? Their lease expired. And they were going to go somewhere. So
you got to move, right? What are you going to do?
And the thing is that is true in every market. See, that's where, if you have the mindset, because I can take you back through 5 recessions, which is how many I've been through now. I've been through 5 recessions, and real estate transactions took place in all of them. Now, you have to get your unfair share if you're going to stay in business, but what it does is the professionals rise to the top. Those that are creative and resourceful are going to figure out the market of the moment, and they're going to, go beyond that too. I mean, I love the Wayne Gretzky quote. You asked me, how did I survive and then thrive? Wayne Gretzky says he skates to where the puck is going. I'm always looking to where the market is going. Now, I can't always see everything because, COVID kind of hit out of left field. I say that, though. I'm in a mastermind of top agents all over the United States, and I did hear what was happening on the West Coast, and I was like, really? They're shutting down your state? What are they doing that for?
When did you hear that? When was that?
All the way back. Well, actually, I heard originally from a client who had her son coming back from China and was being quarantined in January for 14 days. And I'm like, what? And at the time, I thought to myself, well, should I be concerned about this? So I asked her, I was like, well, when is the quarantine in, and when do you want to go on the market? And it turned out there was plenty of time for all of that. And I was like, well, then let's just meet after his quarantine ends. So that was like my first that I heard of it. And then I was like, we be worried about this? And then I started listening to the West Coast. And so I was ahead of the curve on a lot of things. And our market was ahead of the curve on a lot of things because we were paying attention to what was going on in other areas. There's still, though, even with that, there were things that happened that we couldn't predict. And so then that's where you experience muscle memory led to making good decisions to move the team and the business to. And actually, we're having a better year this year So if you if you think about it, last year we sold 91 million. This year we already have 48 million on the books, and it's June 1st.
Already,
So
wow, that's
yeah,
crazy.
so if you think about it, we're if we stay on track, we'll be almost 100 million. So that means a 10% increase. So, but people are buying and selling homes. People are moving because it's a human need. It's a basic human need, and people actually care more about where they live now than ever before.
How do you get your people into the right mindset though to keep on going? I mean, I have to imagine while all this was going on, maybe some of your staff was like a little bit I don't know, a little bit down because of what was
Oh,
going
they were all
on.
freaking out. No, yeah, it really. I have to say, the day we moved home, decided to start sheltering home, I instituted a 9 a.m. Zoom call, and there's a program called Changes, and by ARC Integrated, and it's what they call generative questions. So Changes stands for stands for cognition, H stands for heart, E stands for environment, A stands for action, actually, N stands for nourishment, G stands for guts, E environment, and S for spiritual. And every day we would do a question. And we onboarded a new team member during this. Literally, she started during COVID, and having that 15 to 30 minutes every morning to kind of do this check-in, but in a generative way, not in a, oh my God, where do you get toilet paper? But what, and the questions are great because they cause you to think about times you were resourceful before, or times that you, thought of a way to work through it, times of where you took action, times where you nourished yourself, times where you had guts. Okay. So all of these questions, kind of random, but we would share them. And first of all, we learned a lot about each other, but we also learned about what helped each other be successful, even in challenging times. And then we would just do kind of a state of the real estate market. Like, what are you seeing? What's going on? What's it like out there on the street showing houses? And it really gave us a great platform for staying connected since we were working remotely. We decided as a team that was going to be our COVID experience, and we're going back to our more traditional office environment. But we'll always look back on that, and the way we stayed connected and encouraged each other through the challenging time was really a positive intention.
And that it ended up being much, I think more good came out of it than bad, right?
Actually, it did. It really did.
Yeah.
And there is good that comes. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Right.
That's right.
I had a listing opportunity. Somebody I'd known for 25 years. They were going to go with the low cost agent, and I wished them well. And this was several months ago. And during all this with COVID, they called me up. They go, we really think experience is what we need right now. And I was like, yeah, I would agree with that. This is not the time for the newly, people that haven't had as we talked about, well, what did I learn, in the savings loan crisis, and what did I learn in the financial market crash? I mean, what did I learn in the dot-com bust? I mean, what did I learn? Those things create these knowledge, skills, and abilities that, isn't always available in low cost. I'm not saying there isn't a place for that, but I'm just saying, so I got that opportunity because of it. And so you can look at anything, in both ways, right? You can, Hal Elrod says, things happen for a reason, and I get to choose the reason. The reason these things happen have then led to this, and I'm choosing how to turn this into ways that I can grow and become better than before.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely true. So now if you can tell your 20-year-old self something before all of this COVID stuff and 5 recessions and all this fun stuff, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
So there's a proverb that says, when was the best time to plant a tree?
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. When is the next best time? Is now, right? And I would say the same about two things. One, invest in real estate because it really truly is. It's real. They're not making any more of it. So my investment in real estate has been my most best producing asset. And invest in yourself.
Yes.
Because I truly am my best asset. When I think about what produces results, it's me. So the more I've invested in my personal development and my business development, things like podcasting like this and training and coaching and reading books and seminars, those things have actually had a higher return on investment, a return on experience, return on knowledge than anything else. And so those two things, I would say, are what I would tell my 20-year-old self.
Excellent. Hey, you know what? You can never go wrong with coaching and surrounding yourself with like-minded people that want to see success. Nothing ever wrong with that. It could be a total game changer right there. Just that alone.
Well, and Warren Buffett said that too. He actually says your best investment is yourself. And So there you go, from the Oracle of Omaha.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Karen, you can reach her via her website at 5minutesuccess.com. Hope you can see that you can create the life of your dreams. So don't forget to check out her website and her book, Flip Time, Love Life. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast.